Friday Night Stars, presented by WHATABURGER, is brought to you by Texas Lottery. Play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big. And by WHATABURGER. Head over to your hometown WHATABURGER and try the Patty Melt. They may not have been the first to think up this classic sandwich, but they put a pretty tasty spin on it.
It is time for week number 9 of this Texas high school football season. Bill Jones along with Kyle Youmans, and welcome to Friday Night Stars, brought to you by WHATABURGER. And what a slate we have once again this week as we inch closer and closer to playoff time, which is just a few weeks away.
Isn't that wild? We're already into week 9 of the Texas high school football season. This is what, week 4 for us on Friday Night Stars. So it gets more and more important every week. And of course, these district battles are starting to dwindle down. Who are contenders and who are pretenders across the area?
All right, of course, Kyle Youmans, the voice of Frisco ISD here at the Star in Frisco. But he spent a lot of time at the University of North Texas as well, and he would like to spend a lot of time this week in Denton for some high school football.
No doubt.
A couple of big games, and let's start with our WHATABURGER game of the week, which features the Ryan Raiders of Denton ISD taking on the Aledo Bearcats, a rare matchup of these two who are now district rivals. Ryan holds the all-time series lead 2-0. And you have to go back 20 years for that, but two storied power programs here.
Yeah, you look across high school football, and of course, district realignment will take away rivalries, but it will also add some new rivalries. And this is one of those new ones that hasn't happened since 2003, but two powerful teams that aren't used to having multiple losses in that column. And we'll start with Aledo. Let's talk about the Bearcats because they can stay in control of District 3 5A Division 1 with a win. This is the first meeting between these two since 2003, but this is an Aledo squad that doesn't do it with just one or two guys that are high-level recruits. They do it with an entire group of really contenders and character guys, but I really like their running back, Hawk Patrick Daniels. 626 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns. He's the one that they go behind. And then for Denton Ryan on the other side, a team also not used to having some losses in that column earlier in the season, they would be eliminated from district title contention with a loss because they lost earlier in the season, actually their last game out against Burleson Centennial. They're coming off of a bye week. A win today, or excuse me, this weekend would be a chance for a 3-way tie between Burleson Centennial, Aledo, and that Denton Ryan squad. So I expect Kalon Davis, the quarterback for Denton Ryan, to maybe pick up the slack there a little bit. 700 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, just the 3 interceptions. He needs to play better if the Raiders are going to have a win on the road against the Bearcats, or at home against the Bearcats.
And the Ryan Raiders having some injury issues here, not only to the quarterback, but also the running back Caleb Hicks. And, of course, they feature the linebacker Anthony Hill Jr., the Texas A&M commit, the #1 rated linebacker prospect in the country. All right, let's go to game number 2, our games to watch this week, as the Carroll Dragons will play host to the Eaton Eagles, and this is the week before a big showdown for Carroll against Byron Nelson, an unbeaten team next week.
Yeah, you can't look ahead if you're South Lake Carroll because Northwest Eaton, a squad that, yes, they have the 3-4 record, but the record doesn't look great, but they've won their last 2 games, and they've done so in big style, including last week a big win over Timber Creek, 38-31. They held on late in that football game. Keep your eye on the tight end recruit, a 4-star out of Stanford, Jaden Platt. 6'4", 235 pounds. I'm excited to see how he battles against this Dragons defense because South Lake Carroll has allowed a touchdown or less in 5 of their 7 games this season. Their last real tune-up before that matchup with Byron Nelson, because you talk about that defense being tested, they will be tested next week against Byron Nelson, but how healthy are they on the offensive side of the football? That's the biggest question for me at South Lake, if they can continue to roll through that 7-0 record.
Yeah, and you're speaking of the quarterback position for them. Caden Anderson went down with a knee injury a couple of weeks ago. Graham Knowles filled in nicely last week in a 49-3 win over Keller Central. He is the son, by the way, of Mark Knowles, who is a Wimbledon, U.S. Open, and Australian Open doubles champion.
How about that?
Back in his tennis day, one of the great tennis pros in our area. All right, let's move on to game number 3, as it will be the Heath Hawks playing host to the Horn Jaguars in a big matchup in District 10 6A.
Yeah, it's really the battle for second place behind Rockwall in that district. Mesquite Horn, they've been a pleasant surprise this season. I mean, you talk about their only only 2 losses have been tough to read because he had a 3-point loss against Rockwall. They challenged the Yellow Jackets better than Rockwall Heath did, but then they lost to Arlington, a team that's a little bit down in the Colts this season. Back-to-back 24-16 wins, though, for Horn over these last couple weeks against Legacy and against Mesquite. I really like the love that needs to be there for the running back Titus Muse. 130 carries, 760 yards, 7 touchdowns. He needs to have a little bit more love. But Rockwall Heath, this was supposed to be a slow year with a new quarterback, and I know I'm not on screen, but I'm putting air quotations on that because their only losses have been to Rockwall, the aforementioned leader in District 10 6A, and of course Denton Geyer, who's one of the top teams in the entire area. They've got a 1-2 punch at that running back position with Britton Snyder and Malachi Tuzno. I really like both of those guys. They have 17 combined touchdowns between the two. They're going to run the rock effectively in this one.
And of course, their quarterback, Caleb Hoover, the younger brother of Josh Hoover, who won the Landry Award last year and is a freshman at TCU right now. Let's move down into the smaller school ranks in a big showdown in District 7 4A Division I as the Carter Cowboys are revived and they head to Salina to take on the always powerful Bobcats.
Yeah, how about this for a historic matchup? Both of these programs have been around forever and they've been winning forever, and it looks like it's Salina time again for the Bobcats. 6-1 shutouts in 2 of their last 3 games of the season. They're expected to be here. 2 quarterbacks in the mix with Noah Bentley and Knox Porter. Both of those guys have played well for the Bobcats this season, but how about Dallas Carter? A bit of a surprise. They only have the 1 loss so far this season, and that loss was to a state-ranked Sunnyvale team earlier in the campaign. They run the football well as well with Caden Landry, 1,300 yards, 13 touchdowns, and he only has 130 carries. So that's about 10 yards per carry and a touchdown per every 10 carries. Keep that in mind because he may be the best player on the field, and you always have a chance to win when you've got the best player on the gridiron.
And we point out for Salina, their running back Gabe Gayton, what a great story. We featured him and his family on CBS 11 last year. 5 different foster homes growing up in New York, moved to Texas, is adopted and having a big senior season for the Salina Bobcats. We're just getting started here on Friday Night Stars. When we come back in a moment, it's not 1, but it is 2 showdowns at the Star featuring one Kyle Youmans next.
This segment was brought to you by WHATABURGER. Head over to your hometown WHATABURGER and try the Patty Melt. They may not have been the first to think up this classic sandwich, but they put a pretty tasty spin on it. This segment is brought to you by Texas Lottery. Play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big.
Showdown at the Star. That means showtime for Kyle Youmans, who will be calling games tonight and tomorrow night. About to head down that Nike Star Walk to call Centennial versus Liberty, Kyle.
Yeah, this is a game where Liberty could get their first win of the season. Centennials had their struggles throughout the year, especially when Harry Stewart, who's their 4-star junior running back, he has been sporadically injured throughout the year. He'll be on for a game and then off for 2 games, on for a game and then back and forth. If he's available, he is a weapon. 700 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns on the season, and that's not even with the entire workload upon him. But if he's not available, expect Coach Schwinney and company to really make things interesting for the Redhawks tonight.
And on Friday night, the showdown at the Star, Kyle will be blazing a trail down the Nike Star Walk to call Lebanon Trail, the Trailblazers against those Wakeland Wolverines.
Hopefully my trail is a little bit deeper than what the Trailblazers have shown this season. Let's talk about Lebanon Trail. They've got a defense, and they will get a win at some point. I'm confident in that. I really like Gabe Robinson. He's an edge rusher on that Lebanon Trail defense. He's done a fantastic job this season getting after the quarterback. But for Wakeland on the other side, that's a team in the Wolverines that started 1-3 this season, and they have woken up. Wins over Lone Star, that Liberty squad we just talked about, and Centennial, who we just talked about as well. I love the firepower on the offensive side of the football for Wakeland, and though it wasn't the cleanest start to the season for the Wolverines, who are aiming for their 10th straight playoff appearance, the fight is apparent, and these recent wins from the program can be contributed to that fight and to a culture and brotherhood and belief from the first-year head coach and instilled by Chandler Isom.
togetherness. That's probably our biggest part, because I mean, coach, our motto is "we over me," and so I mean, it's a we thing, not a me thing.
Playing with my friends and knowing everyone, I feel like we're all a family, and I enjoy, like, after a big play, getting up with everyone and bringing the juice, as Coach Eisen would say.
Pretty neat to know guys on the other team and to see them after the game and everything. And like Donnie was saying, it does add a little bit of competitiveness to the game.
When you're walking the field for the first time and you look over to the other side and you see the Cowboys logo, and you know that just on the other side of the field is their locker room, and you know where America's team is getting their work done, and we get to go play in that venue, and that's definitely something special.
It's always special for these Frisco ISD schools to get to play at Ford Center at the Star. However, Coach Chandler Isom and this program, they've been in big games. They defeated Highland Park last year in the playoffs to go 3 rounds deep, and then continued forward in their longest playoff run in school history. And though it hasn't necessarily looked much of the same, Bill, this season, they have found that fight. And I like the way that one of the players said it there. They have the juice because they have gotten through the toughest part of their schedule, and they're turning around, and they've got a chance to really make some noise in that district.
That District 6-5A Division I standings, I mean, when you look at Lone Star and Wakeland are tied for the 4th spot. 4 teams make the playoffs, and so it's going to be a big stretch run here the final 3 weeks of this regular season.
Yeah, Heritage and Frisco still have to play each other. Frisco and Reedy play this week, so Wakeland and Lone Star kind of waiting in the wake. I mean, of course, no pun intended there, but they are waiting to make a move because their toughest parts of the schedule are done and over with. Now it's time for the guys at the top to kind of start beating up on each other.
And one of those top 5 will be left out of the postseason. When we come back here on Friday Night Star, some more notable games around the area, plus how about Allen versus Geyer when we come back.
This segment was brought to you by Texas Lottery. Play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big. This segment is brought to you by WHATABURGER. Head over to your hometown WHATABURGER and try the patty melt. They may not have been the first to think up this classic sandwich, but they put a pretty tasty spin on it.
Notable games around the area. We continue with a great rivalry game. At the top of the list there, Marcus and Louisville battling for the axe. It's Nolan and Parish Episcopal. It's McKinney North and Longview. Bill Jones with Kyle Youmans. And which game you like there?
I really like the bookend of the top game and the bottom game. Of course, Marcus at Louisville. I mean, that's a Louisville team that has just been running over opponents. They've had 2 big wins in back-to-back weeks. But if Marcus gets a win, they could climb right back into first place in that division, and that would be really interesting to watch. And then, of course, Longview, undefeated out there in East Texas, hosting that McKinney North team that took Allen to the brink last week. So keep that in mind.
You know, a matchup that is becoming a sort of a rivalry because they just happen to be placed in the same district here the last 3 years now. District 5, 6A, the Allen Eagles against the Geyer Wildcats, 2 top 10 teams in the state of Texas squaring off tonight in Denton.
This really might be the game of the year across Dallas-Fort Worth, especially between 2 teams based up here. You talk about Allen. This is a game that, going back to last year, there's a little bit of angst between the 2 sides because the Eagles came out on top in that game 38-31. But they've had this game circled for quite some time because the junior quarterback, Michael Hawkins, has been growing all year long. He's been playing better as they've gone along, but can their defense hold off Geyer? This is the #1 team in the area, Geyer is, but a plus 235 point differential at the moment. They've been blowing teams out of the water, and a big reason for that is the Oklahoma commit, Jackson Arnold at quarterback. He has been dealing this season, and they could send a message with their dominant defense on that side of the football as well. Then the state, and of course 5, 6A, they're all going to be watching, so putting a statement on display on national television tonight, that's going to be a huge key for both of these squads, and both teams have the talent to do so.
I love the quarterback matchup there. Jackson Arnold, the #5 rated senior quarterback in the nation, and as you mentioned, committed to Oklahoma, and the son of an Oklahoma Sooner, Michael Hawkins, a junior. He is the #11 rated junior quarterback in the nation. All right, how about a battle of unbeatens in District 3, 5A Division II as the Independence Knights take on the Eagles in Argyle.
Okay, so 4 weeks ago, or maybe it was more like 3 weeks ago, this district had 4 undefeated teams. teams. It was Independence, it was Argyle, and then Frisco Emerson and Lake Dallas. I guess that was 3 weeks ago. They were all undefeated. I've seen all 4 of those teams. These 2 are the legitimate ones in this district. I've seen every team in the district so far. The winner of this game will most likely win the district outright because this game is massive. Argyle has not lost a home game since 2015, but Independence has some weaponry on the outside. I mean, looking backward and seeing the way that Argyle can run the football, they're going to aim to take the ball out of the hands of the Knights by getting the football to the outside, letting R.J. Bunnell run the football like they have all season long. He's up over 1,000 yards, and he has a number of touchdowns to his total this season. Independence on the other side, they've got some outside threats as well, and I really like what they can do throwing the football. They're probably the best air attack team in the district versus Argyle's the best ground attack team. Both of these sides have their strengths, and it should be a fun one in Argyle.
As always, it will be standing room only in Argyle for this battle of unbeatens as Argyle has made the move up to Class 5A for the first time in school history and trying to win a district championship. All right, when we come back here on Friday Night Stars, it's our much anticipated Power Programs of the Week.
You're playing with your friends, you got competition everywhere. So like in my area, it was kind of like I was going against almost all my friends because all my friends went to 2 different schools. So just don't make it bigger than what it is. You know, it's still a game of football. You know, it's a game that you've always been playing. So I probably have to say my junior year, the state game, where I had 2 pick sixes. That's probably my best moment.
Cowboys rookie cornerback Duron Bland somehow made it to the NFL without playing high school football in Texas. He's from California, Modesto, California.
I don't know how you could do that. I feel like Texas is the only way to get there. But credit to Duron Bland. It's a credit to his work ethic, right?
That's right.
How you do it.
He got to Texas as quickly as he could.
Definitely
as well.
could.
That's right. All right, time for our Power Programs of the Week. Kyle Youmans, what track are you venturing down this week?
Ooh, I'm going to have some fun with this one. This was 1-score winners from Week 8. These are all teams that won by 1 possession or less. Some of that even less than that. I mean, it was like a 1-point, 2-point game in a couple of these. I really liked that Brock over Whitesboro game. That was a game that came all the way down to the wire. I already mentioned Allen over McKinney North. That was a game that came down to the wire as well. 31-28 was the final score in that one. Boswell in a district heated battle with LD Bell. LD Bell trying to make the playoffs for the first time in quite some time. They needed a big win over Boswell, did not get it. And then McKinney North over Lufkin. How about them? 53-51, the final score there. So lots of really exciting games kind of mixed in between for that Power Programs. Teams that held on whenever things got tight.
All right, my Power Programs, I'm going multi-sport Power Programs because the TABC basketball preseason rankings came out this week. And so here they are. These are the programs that have powerful football and basketball programs, starting with Duncanville, ranked number 3 in the state in football. Their boys basketball, number 1 in the state. Their girls basketball, number 4 in the state. DeSoto, 11 in football, 22nd in boys basketball, number 1 in the state in girls basketball. Meanwhile, Allen is number 9 in football, number 3 in boys basketball. Martin is number 10 in football, number 7 in boys basketball. And North Crowley is also in the top 25 in both football and boys basketball.
Are we allowed to do that on this show?
Talk basketball?
Yeah, are we allowed to hit basketball? We can hit the hoops if we want to.
You know the rules on the Power Program.
There are no rules.
We are allowed to do anything we want.
I'm going to bring up baseball rankings whenever we get to
what I'm going to do next week? Just because you seem to be mocking me a little bit on this. Next week, I'm going to bring up football and volleyball programs.
Okay.
Because they're both fall sports.
My sister played volleyball, so that
there
one,
you
that
go.
one strikes
I might
home.
throw cross country in there as well.
Now that would be
anything to get my Carroll
You
Dragons
find
on the list.
cross-country rankings?
All right. Our Landry Award watch list when we come back in a moment.
Friday Night Stars, presented by WHATABURGER, was brought to you by Texas Lottery. Play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big. And by WHATABURGER. Head over to your hometown WHATABURGER and try the Patty Melt. They may not have been the first to think up this classic sandwich, but they put a pretty tasty spin on it.
There have been some great running backs who have been Landry Award finalists and winners through the years, going back over a decade ago. And Jonathan Gray of Aledo High School was a two-time winner of the Landry Award. Here's our watch list this week. Is the area rushing leaders. You like the names on that list, don't you, Kyle Youmans?
Oh, yeah, all the way through. I mean, these are the guys that are the key to their offensive motor. They are the ones that stir the drink overall. I mean, A.J. Newberry, I feel like he's already been at the top of these lists for quite some time, but I really like Bingman at Terrell. I mean, 20 touchdowns already, but then how can you compete with Coco Brown and Jaden Walker? 1,400 yards and 17 or more touchdowns for both of those guys. They've been playing fantastic, and their offenses rely on them to run the football and do so week in, week out, and somehow they still get the job done.
And the last guy on that list, Owen Allen. South Lake Carroll has over 6,000 rushing yards in his 4-year career at Carroll, and they're really going to be leaning on him now since they lost their quarterback to an injury. That does it for Friday Night Stars for this week. For Kyle Youmans, I'm Bill Jones, and we will see you again next week for week number 10 of this high school season.